Hey everybody, it's Chris. This is another Lazy Chucker Disc Golf review brought to you by the Hazy Shade in Dayton, Ohio. Thank you to them for the support this year making these reviews possible. Today we are going to be looking at a very overstable mid-range disc, the Deflector from MVP Discs. Emphasis on very overstable. How overstable? Well, if you know anything about justices from dynamic discs, and especially the 3-glide justices, you know they are just monster meat hooks. Thrown flat, they want to get to the ground and flare skip. Another disc in this review is going to be fairly new release from Lone Star Discs, the Walker. I can tell you after one throw with this disc what Emerson Keith replaced his Boston Bruins Justice with, because all three of these discs do something very well. When thrown flat, they dip their wing and they get to the ground fast and maybe flare skip. When flexed, they go flat, they dip their wing, and they maybe flare skip. This is a very incredibly overstable mid-range. All three of these are very similar. In fact, you're going to see a throw where I threw them all about 200 feet, and they are all within 4 feet from each other. Maybe 5 feet from each other in the field. That was the most accurate of the bunch, but it was a really good example of just how similar these are in flight. Now, there's not a lot to say. I can just over and over again say how overstable it is. Backhand as a 400-foot thrower with my max distance with my drivers, if I throw this flat, it's going to dip its wing and it's not going to go super far. I have to give it a little bit of flex if I want to get distance out of it, or I have to put on a wide hyzer to give it height so that it can actually go somewhere. If I just throw it flat, it's going to want to hit the ground and flare skip, which is a useful throw sometimes, but which makes this disc kind of situational for me, even as a almost 400-foot thrower. So if you throw lower than that, just to realize it's going to be even more overstable for you. Now, I've seen pros throw these incredibly far, all three of these discs incredibly far, but for mere mortal throwers like myself, this is going to be a very situational disc, just like either one of these two would be. It's going to be that meat hook where it's super windy and I need something that is reliable, or it's going to be that situation where I'm stuck in the woods and no other disc besides something like this is going to be able to hit that line. Yeah, that's really what it is to say about it. Forehand or backhand, this thing wants to get to the ground. It's going to give you a hard fade. Even with a severe tilt, it's going to pan out, or it's going to fade out. So, if you have any questions or comments, please put them below so I can get back to you. Otherwise, this is an overstable disc review, and in fact, I'm going to do almost the exact same review with the Walker in just a second, because this is Lazy Chucker. I have the footage already. I can just flip the views. So, if you have any questions or comments about either disc, you can put them on here, but I will do a separate one for the Walker because I think Lone Star deserves that recognition as well. So, questions or comments below. Let's have that conversation. Otherwise, we'll go to the field, we'll see them fly, and we'll go to the course a little bit just to see them fade really hard. So, thanks for watching. Let's start with wing comparisons. Here you can see the Deflector is slightly wider wing than the Justice. It's pretty close, but it is a little bit wider, and it's a taller disc overall than the Justice according to the specs as well. That's on PGA approved discs. The Walker is actually the narrowest wing of the three and is also about the same height as the Justice, so the Deflector is a little bit taller. Here we're going to go out to the field and do some basic throws. This 70% might be somebody who throws about a little over 300, so you're going to see a very overstable disc that's just swinging left and wants to skip. This 85% is mimicking maybe 350 feet of total power, and again, just very overstable disc. And then this flex is actually a throw that I would try to get distance with. As you can see, I think it went right around 270, 265, but not going to get big distance out of it. Now, I did mention that giving height to these discs will actually help them because it allows them to push forward while they're trying to get to the ground, and that was what you could see here. Going to comparisons with the Walker, both of these discs thrown fairly flat, maybe a little bit of hyzer on them, but you can see both wings dip. Both discs want to get to the ground, and this flare skips put them almost right next to each other. These discs were only a few feet apart. Here's the Walker again. This is powered up. This is that 85% throw. The Walker is thrown lower, so the crosswind didn't push it as much, but you can see both wings dip, both discs are going left. They ended up pretty close together, even though the Deflector was thrown higher. This is an island approach, maybe 180 to the front of the green. You can see both discs are going to make that circle easily. The Walker was thrown a little bit wider. Both of them disappear from screen, sorry about that, but both of them make the island no problem. This throw is actually into a pretty good headwind, maybe 15 miles an hour. You can see I didn't throw either one wide enough to get them to land on the basket, but you can also see the wind didn't really affect the flights. They're just very overstable. Until they hit the ground, you can actually see the wind push them back a little bit, but the flight-wise, no, not really much effect. In the woods here, this is why I refer to these discs as when all else fails. You can see how much tilt I put on them. They're still going to correct and finish right. They're just a very overstable disc no matter which direction you throw them. Here we'll start the comparison of the Justice. As you can see, both of these were released on a pretty heavy turnover. Both are going to flatten out and even finish left. I would say with a normal neutral mid-range, this would have turned into a roller. So that is just how overstable these discs are. Second release is just a little bit harder pull and a little bit of height released on hyzer, which allows the disc to get a little bit more forward distance even with that heavy fade, and you're going to see both of them come down almost on spikes and then skip a little bit. They're going to end up pretty close to each other on that one. Here is that island approach again. These discs were released on much better angles, more similar to one another than the Walker was, and you're going to see that similarity will allow for the flights to come down in a very similar spot as well. The Deflector is going to skip a little bit left, but both are going to end up near the middle of the island. In the woods, just a very flat throw. Both wings will dip hard and pull the disc around the corner. The Deflector is going to catch a little branch here, which won't allow it to finish its full flight, but otherwise these would have ended up pretty close. One last comparison flight into a left to right wind of about 15 miles an hour or so, which will cause the wings to dip even faster, not allowing either one to get back to the basket, but you can see just how well they did fight considering the wind and how overstable they are. To recap, the Deflector is a very overstable mid-range from MVP discs. It compares favorably to the Justice from Dynamic discs or the Walker from Lone Star discs. It should be able to handle just about any headwind you're going to run into out there and still have a heavy fade at the end of the flight. If you love the Deflector and need another one, or if this video made you interested and you want to check out one, head over to hazyshade.com. They've got some options available for you, including these BYOP protons. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please feel free to like, share, or even subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and just in case you think these discs are a little bit too overstable, I'm including 2 flights here from the Axiom Discs Pyro. Not quite as overstable as the other 3, but still reliable, maybe a little more accessible to slightly slower arms. I will be reviewing the Pyro in the future because I enjoy it, so look forward to that.